Okay, so this next installment on creative writing is going to be looking at figurative language, and one of the ways I'm going to be looking at that is through looking at circus imagery. First of all though, I just want to look at the learning objective, which is to be able to apply complex writing techniques to your descriptions, give it that kind of extra spark. So one of the first questions that you might be asking yourselves is, what is figurative language? If you've got pen and paper there already, you might want to kind of jot down what your initial impression or your initial ideas on what figurative language is, but we're going to move shortly on to the definition. So, figurative language then is a phrasing that often goes beyond the literal meaning of words. So instead of, it's not kind of like your dictionary definition, it's kind of that metaphorical element to the writing. So the definition actually dates back to the mid-19th century, and it comes from the old French word figuratif, meaning metaphorical. So that's that metaphorical meaning coming through there. Figurative language then, the reason why kind of your English teachers we want you to be using that is because it adds that colour, it adds kind of that better spark to your writing. And in doing so, it often adds or appeals to more of the senses, and just simplify it for you there then. Figurative language is the use of different literary devices, different literary techniques. So you might want to pause the video now and have a think about what figurative language or what different literary devices you can remember. I'm sure your teachers have gone over these plenty of times in class. So yeah, maybe give it a pause here and see what you can remember. So, here are some of the ones that you might have gotten down on your list if you made a list. You've got similes, metaphor, oxymoron, hyperbole, or as like some of you like to say, hyperbole, but it definitely is hyperbole, that over-exaggeration. Sometimes you guys use it in lesson where you might say, we've been in this classroom for years and years and years, and then hopefully your teacher turns around and says, that's a great hyperbole. But yeah, moving on, we've got idioms, personification, symbolism, alliteration, we've got onomatopoeia, we've got puns, and we've got irony. What you might want to do is go back in the video and look at these, maybe make a note of what some of these are if you've not come across them before. We're not going to be focusing on all of them in today's session, we're just going to be looking at 3 select techniques, or 3 forms of figurative language. So, we've got similes. And this is where we are comparing something to something else using like or as. Okay, so there's a couple of examples there. It sounded as if the birds were singing down from the heavens. Like a waterfall framing the shape of her body, the dress and hair looked as one. A memory, it's one of my favourites, a memory like a well-ordered cupboard. And you think about that, you've got a memory, and you're saying it is like a well-ordered cupboard. So you've got those 2 images there, and you kind of often use similes to help, or what I sometimes say is a bridge. It provides a bridge to the reader. They know what a memory is, they know what a well-ordered cupboard would look like, and it pieces the puzzle together. What I also say is kind of a simile is a comparison, but it's not a really, really strong comparison. We'll get onto that later on when we look at metaphors. But as I said, there's a couple of examples there. The man was like a lion. Again, easy. Think of a man, think of the ferociousness of a lion. So what I want you to do now then is to look at this image, and it's from The Greatest Showman. Brilliant film. Have a watch of it if you've not done so already. What I want you to do is pause the video and write down 3 similes for this image. Moving on, now we've got personification. You'll notice that I've highlighted the person in that, and that is because personification is where we give an object a human or animalistic function or human kind of features. Examples there, her shoes were dancing throughout the multiple corridors, the lock of hair wrapped around the air, clinging to the waves of the wind. It's often the verb that personifies the object. So the shoes is the object, the human feature is the dancing. We've got the hair there, and it's again the verb wrapped, clinging. That's what personifies the object. Okay. So, pause this now, have a look at this image, and I'd like you to write down 3 sentences that include personification. What you might want to focus on is the fire would be a good one. Give it that kind of human features, focusing on the lights that are in play here. And you might also want to think about the ropes that they're attached to. That's also something that you might kind of want to focus on there. All right. Lastly, we're going to be looking at metaphors, and again, it goes back to kind of the simile in that sense. I feel like a metaphor is something that sometimes people think, oh, it's really difficult to use a metaphor, but it's actually just a stronger comparison than a simile. So if we think back to the simile, the man was like a lion. It's quite a weak comparison. You're saying they're like a lion. They might just take on aspects of being like a lion. They might just have really sharp teeth. Whereas if you say the man is a lion, he's got that kind of a solid comparison there. They take on all aspects of that thing. And we see here, so it's a metaphor is when we use a symbol to symbolize something else. So what do we associate with a rock? That idea of it being solid, firm, hard. So if you said he is a rock, it's that idea that he takes on all those qualities of a rock. When you think of the connotations of a vulture, scavenger, picking out things, often evil connotations attributed to a vulture. And that's when you think, well, he is like a vulture, or she is like a vulture. And so it's about making those comparisons. So again, it's not difficult, metaphors are not difficult. It's just thinking about you kind of whether you want to make a kind of a strong comparison. I would definitely go with a metaphor, or that kind of weak comparison, go with that simile. So again, we've got another picture here taken from The Greatest Showman, and what I'd like you to do is write down 2 metaphors for this image within a sentence. You've got some help down here. It says his eyes were, my coat was, the mirror reflected are. And again, focus on certain aspects. We do this kind of thing called zooming in. So zooming in on his eye, zooming in on his eyebrows, or some part of the image, zooming in on the colour red, thinking about the connotations there. Okay? We've got an example here of a piece of writing that's got several techniques or several figurative language examples in the text. What you might want to do here is have a pause of this video and to make notes, or to kind of see if you can identify any of them. And use that as inspiration for the next creative writing test that we're eventually going to be doing in a moment. So, sorry. So if you've kind of looked at this and you've thought about which techniques are there, you've obviously got some similes being used down here. A tall bird-like man shifted on the bench next to me, making it groan under pressure. So you've got that personification there as well. The bench is groaning. It can't actually do that. You've got a tall bird-like man. So again, we picture a bird, we picture this man, and we put we put both of them together. All right. So now comes the main task. What we're going to do now then is bring it all together. Bring metaphors, similes, personification, and I want you to write a description for the following clip that is hopefully going to be shown here. Okay. What you might want to do is whilst you're watching this video is make notes on what you could write about. What you'll eventually write up about, okay? I'm just going to start a little bit further in.
Is left behind. Don't fight it, it's coming for you, running at you. It's only this moment, don't care what comes after. You're full of dream, can't you see, getting closer. Just surrender, cause you feel the feeling taking over. It's fire, it's freedom, it's flying open. It's a picture in the pulpit and you're blind devotion. There's something breaking at the brick of every wall, it's holding all that you know. So tell me, do you wanna go?
Okay, so I'm just going to stop it there. But obviously you could see there was lots and lots of things that you could describe in that. So what you might want to do is obviously go back in the video and have a look and pause it on particular points. If you've got the music, you've got to think about applying all those senses and making your language, your writing really sensual. So what we need to spend now is maybe 5-10 minutes having an attempt at writing your own example of descriptive writing, using that figurative language, using metaphors, using similes, using personification. And again, feel free to go back to some of the examples, take some inspiration from those. Lastly then,
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. You've been searching in the dark, your sweat soaking through the floor. Buried in your bones, there's an ache that you can't ignore. Taking your breath, stealing your mind, and all that was real is left behind. Don't fight it, it's coming for you, running at you. It's only this moment, don't care what comes after. You're full of a dream, can't you see you getting closer? Just surrender, cause you feel the feeling taking over. It's fire, it's freedom, it's flooding open. It's a picture in the pulpit and your blind devotion. There's something breaking at the brick of every wall that's holding all that you know. So tell me, do you want to go where it's covered in all the color lights? It's where the runaways are running the night. Impossible comes true, it's taking over you.
This is the greatest show,
We light it up, we won't come down.
and the sun can't stop us now.
Watching it come true, it's taking over you.
This is the greatest show.
It's everything you ever want. It's everything you ever need. And it's here right in front of you. This is where you want to be. It's everything you ever want. It's everything you ever need. And it's here right in front of you. This is where you want to be. It's everything you ever want. It's everything you ever need. And it's here right in front of you. This is where you want to be. It's everything you ever want. It's everything you ever need. And it's here right in front of you.
play that again, is I thought I'd show you an example that I wrote, and then you can again take some other inspiration from that, see how these figurative devices are, what they look like when they're put into practice. So we've got fire, heat, energy. The circus tent was an explosion waiting to happen, and then it did. A blinding flash of colours filled the arena. Acrobats, animals, anything and everything began to burst out of the stage entrance, whilst the cacophony of noise overwhelmed my ears and beat them into submission. My mere 5 senses seemed not enough for the spectacle that was unfolding, contorting and spiralling out in front of me. This circus was alive. So you can see what I've done there. I've applied those similes, those metaphors, those personification throughout there. And again, you might want to stop the video and think about where those, or where that figurative language is in play. If you do write your own, we'd love it for you to share it with us. And so here we are then. If you want to share yours, you can send it to your English teacher, or you can submit it in a message to our Instagram page at Buile_Hill_English. I hope you've enjoyed the little session, and yeah, happy writing. Thank you.